Advanced Studio Classroom is on the air. Saying goodbye to your child isn't easy, but here's some tips to help you parents. Well, hello, advanced listeners. Welcome to our Trends article for the month of August, and we have been talking about college life. In fact, joining me again today, I have two great panelists. To my left, I have
Linda, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Linda. It's great to always have you on the show. And
Brandon, good to be back.
Thank you for both returning to the show today. Now, yesterday we began our article on college life, and we actually tackled some myths that have come about through hearsay that people hear about college and perhaps even have started to believe themselves about college life. And what were some of those myths that we tackled yesterday, Brandon?
Well, the first one was only the best and brightest get accepted. And that's not necessarily true. We talked about, these universities are looking for all different kinds of people with different kinds of interests.
Exactly. And so we learned yesterday that it's not just about your grades, right, that contribute to your campus life, but it's also about what you as an individual, your strengths, your interests, what that can also contribute to campus life. Now, we also had another myth that we learned about yesterday, Linda.
Right. And the second myth we talked about was if you haven't heard of a college, it can't be very good. And that is not necessarily true. There are lots of different kinds of colleges, and that's true for any country in the world. And I may not have heard of it. It might be a very just the college you need for your field of study.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very good. Now, I did not go to college in America. I went to college in New Zealand, and New Zealand works that way. We work with whatever the strength of the university is. We know which university is regarded for law, which is regarded for science, which is regarded for business. That's how that has come about in New Zealand. So for us, it was never really about the name of the university, more what their specialty or what they specialize in. So this is really interesting to learn this. I think it's also very important to remember, like we mentioned yesterday, Ivy League school may not be the school that you want to go to if you're wanting to do something in sports. Right? You want to find something that strengthens sports or in science or technology. So these are different things that we learned.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind is, Ivy League schools, like any other college, the colleges within the university are ranked also. So just because they are ranked high and quite famous in one field does not mean they are ranked that way in your field.
Right.
So that's what you need to be looking at.
So you need to do a bit of research. Okay, and we also learned yesterday that your personal essay is very important. Right. Well, today we go on to a different topic. In fact, we go on to look from the parents' point of view, just like I said at the top of the program, that it can be difficult to say goodbye to your child when they're heading off to college. Now, how does a parent go about that? Well, hopefully today we can share with you some tips to help you with that. So we're going to start with our first reading for today. If you have your Advanced magazine open to page 39, or if you have your electronic device, you can join us there. And we're going to start our first reading at the top of column 1.
Countdown to College. Parent Orientation. It used to be that parents packed up the station wagon, drove their son or daughter to college, unloaded the boxes, made their bed, kissed them goodbye, shed a few tears, and headed home. Today, colleges cater to parents with comprehensive multi-day orientation programs. Most colleges and universities schedule parent and student orientations simultaneously. Larger campuses stagger the sessions over the summer. and allow parents to sleep in dorms as part of the orientation experience. Smaller colleges and those with many out-of-state students tend to arrange their orientations around move-in day.
Well, listeners, we're looking at college life and we are counting down to college. In fact, we're talking about parent orientation. In fact, when I think of orientation, I'm thinking about how the students have an orientation. And what is a student orientation, Brandon?
Well, when you are new to something, you go to an orientation a lot of times. So they're new to school, so they need to learn the process of what goes on in their first year or how to, live on campus and so forth.
Right.
And so they go to these orientations and they get a lot of information that should help them.
Okay, good. On how to get around campus, where to find their classes, that kind of thing, right? Well, what do we learn in our first sentence for today, Linda?
Well, we learned how things used to be. So this is written by somebody in the States, so obviously they're driving to school. And it says that parents packed up the station wagon, and a station wagon is a car, but it has a long extended back to it that you can put a lot of boxes in.
Right.
It doesn't have seats for you to sit in, so it's behind the back seat. And then they drove their son or daughter to college, unloaded the boxes, made their kids' bed, kissed them goodbye, cried a little bit, and went home.
Right, so that all happened in one day.
Yes,
right?
kinda.
Or an afternoon, in fact, or probably a very short amount of time. Get there, unload, settle them in, and then leave again. Right? But what do we learn about today, Brandon?
Well, it's different today. Today, colleges, they're catering to the parents. They give them these orientation programs. They have programs that are very comprehensive, and it's over the course of maybe several days. So if something's comprehensive, it's very thorough.
Okay, so it's no longer just an afternoon. In fact, they now have an orientation for the parents themselves, right? So when we're catered to something, what we're doing is we're making something applicable or suit the audience or the customer or whoever it is. It's suited to that person, right? Well, what do we learn about most colleges and universities, Linda?
Well, they have both the parent and the student orientation simultaneously or at the same time. And that was true for both of our children. For our son and then our daughter went to university about 3 years later, and we also, I guess only I went that time and took her to school and went to the orientation at the school, and that was like 2 days long, I think.
So what did they talk to you as parents about during that time?
Well, for both of them, it's about campus life and about, there's like a campus tour for the parent again, and you get to meet people in their, maybe in their field. You can go go look around, but they had a lot of what they did for their health, what they did for their, living situation. They even had whatever dorm they were going to stay in or living situation, they would have meetings with the parents so you knew their living situation and what all was entailed there. And, things like that. They also had receptions for parents so they could meet other parents. It was informative, and also it was meant to, I think, set the parents at ease, kind of.
Okay, so any questions you were able to get answered?
And it says here, in the next section we're going to be reading, it really talks much more thoroughly about what all you can learn about and what kind of questions you can ask.
Right.
But we see here, I found this kind of surprising, that larger campuses stagger the sessions over the summer. Stagger just means to have them, at different times, like around holidays or something. So they have these over the summer, and parents can sleep in a dorm. I'm sorry.
Do you want to sleep in a dorm?
Why would you want to sleep in a dorm as part of the orientation experience?
You've already done that, when you were in college, if you stayed on campus, so why go back to that?
Well, maybe they've gotten better. Maybe the dorms are a lot nicer
That's true.
now.
Yeah.
I could think of more comfortable places to stay.
That's true. The hotel down the road, right?
But I think what this is trying to say is that it doesn't all have to happen at the same time.
Yeah.
Although both of my kids' universities, they both did. It was all at the same time.
Right. Well, you can understand if you have a lot more students, then they need to accommodate, especially the people that they're meeting, during the orientation, that they would need to stagger that because they'll be meeting a lot of people during that time.
Well, yeah, if you go to one of the Big Ten, like my University of Minnesota, 50,000 students.
Wow.
So if you think about it, freshman class going in there,
Yeah.
they must stagger their orientation sessions.
Yes.
Well, thankfully, smaller colleges and those with many out-of-state students, well, they tend to arrange their orientations around move-in day, which makes sense. So the parents don't need to wait as well, right? They bring their students, they're able to do orientation and then go back to their own state later. Well, we have talked a little bit about what occurs during orientation, but let's find out a little bit more in our next reading for today.
For much of the orientation, students and parents are separated. Students register for classes, and parents learn about campus safety, meal plans, credit cards, health insurance, etc. Usually, there are dozens of concurrent workshops that students and parents attend, dealing with study abroad, leadership opportunities, clubs, Greek life, career services, outdoor opportunities, diversity and multicultural affairs, performing arts, and first-year seminars. Parents and students are joined for videos and presentations on a variety of student services, academic, social, psychological, and health, as well as introductions to deans and advisors. During meals and campus tours, parents swap stories, and the anxiety of first-timers is slowly soothed.
Well, we learned from much of the orientation that students and parents are separated. Is that a good idea, Linda?
I think so. Okay, parents, you have to learn to let go. And, for us that live abroad, we are really letting go. You really have to trust your child. And you have a lot to learn yourself as a parent about the school that you're sending your child to. So it's good for this, separation process to start because the students have a lot that they have to do.
And they are very excited, the students are. So even though parents, you might be sad to kind of let them go, try to be excited for them, show your love, but also give them some space, right? Which I think we'll talk about later.
Well, we've talked about this a little bit, but we learned that students register for classes during their orientation, right? While the parents learn, and I thought this was interesting, campus safety.
Yep.
So
we learned
things
about
like
campus safety.
How to take exits or that kind of thing?
Well, if you go to school in the middle of a city, you have to be careful. And so they talked about, I just remember one, they were talking about we put the lighting on at night because oftentimes students are at night, or if you're going to school in the north, both of my kids went to school in the northern part of the state, about the bus system within the campus that kids can take for safety's sake, but also because, they're spread out. Oftentimes they're spread out. So things like that, yes.
Okay, and then we also learn about meal plans. So there are different meal plans you can take?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
you have a lot to choose from.
Right. Actually, I worked in the with the dining services, and I helped people with meal plans and so forth.
Okay. And, of course, credit cards. Now, this is something you wanted to mention, Linda, correct?
Right. And there are two things I think as parents you need to do for your children that are going abroad or anywhere to school. Number one is you need to open a bank account, or your child needs to open a bank account. And usually the banks are near the school. You can pick one near the school. Even if you haven't heard of it, you should research it. Because I know a friend of mine here was sending her daughter to school, and she didn't know the U.S. banks. And so she said, there's some my daughter wants me to open an account in your school in like Wells Fargo, some unknown bank I've never heard of. Wells Fargo is one of the largest banks in the United States. So, because we live abroad, sometimes we don't know that information.
Right.
And also for a credit card, you can set a limit on a credit card. So you don't have to give your child, $20,000 to spend as they please, but make them responsible for it. But they need to have it in case of emergency.
Right.
Sometimes, and this actually did happen. My son was stuck out of state. He was there for some sports event, and they had a car accident. And, he didn't have very much money, and he didn't have a credit card. I mean, one of the guys he was with did, and they rented another car and then drove back to school. But, those kind of things you need to prepare for ahead of time to make your child's life easier and give you peace of mind.
Right. That's good. All right. And one of the other things that gives you peace of mind is health insurance.
Yes, that's a big one.
Right.
I think most universities require health insurance, and they have health services on campus.
That's right. But it's important to check that out and know what they offer.
Yes.
Especially in the U.S., the health insurance is very different, so you need to make sure that that's taken care of.
Right. Well, I think it's very interesting that usually there are dozens of concurrent workshops that students and parents attend. What does the word concurrent mean, Brandon?
Well, these workshops are going on at the same time, right?
Right.
And so you can maybe choose which ones you want to go to, and the students and parents are attending all sorts of different workshops and orientations. So I'm sure they're tired. Were you tired by the end?
Very.
You're learning a lot of new information as well as walking around the campus, meeting lots of different people.
Right.
And in fact, some of the things that they deal with are study abroad. What is study abroad, Linda?
Well, if maybe you want to take a semester, and maybe you're an art history major and you want to study in Paris for a semester, or go to a country, or you're learning about Asian art. So maybe you want to come to a university in Japan or somewhere in Asia to learn about that specific kind of art.
Okay, good. Now, leadership opportunities. Brandon, what kind of leadership opportunities usually arise in college life?
Well, I think there are many opportunities for that, maybe with an organization on campus or some other, clubs and so forth, or maybe even, things that can teach you how to be a leader. Maybe there are seminars or stuff like that people can join.
Okay, and now Greek life. This is something I'm not familiar with. What is Greek life, Linda?
Okay, most universities have. Brandon, did yours have this?
No.
Did your university? Okay, most public universities and Ivy League schools have what are called fraternities for men and sororities for women. And they are made up of the letters of the Greek alphabet, and they usually have houses. So if you're accepted into one of the houses, then you can actually live there, I think after your freshman year. So they are called fraternity organizations, and they're supposed to do good for, some social things. Sometimes they are considered social clubs. And, okay, so they don't accept everybody into their fraternity or sorority. And actually, my son joined a fraternity when he was at school, and he learned a lot. He was president in his junior year and had a lot of opportunities to do. They did benefits and, to raise money to give to organizations. So there's a lot of good. And they have fraternities that specialize, like they have medical fraternities. So if you're trying to go to medical school or planning on going to medical school, maybe you want to associate with them. But you don't have to belong to a fraternity or a sorority in order to enjoy university.
Okay, good. All right. There's lots of social opportunities throughout college life. There's also career services, outdoor opportunities. Wow, so many. Diversity and multicultural affairs, performing arts, which would be like drama, music, and first-year seminars. So there's a lot to learn at these orientations, right? And in fact, what do we learn in the next paragraph, Brandon?
Well, parents and students, they're actually joined for videos and presentations on many different student services, and there's a list there. And you can also meet advisors and deans, and so you really get a feel of what's going on campus during these orientations.
Right. And what's the purpose of doing all of this, Linda?
Well, I think it's to ease separation anxiety.
Right.
For both, maybe for the child, but the child, of course, has a lot more excitement than the parent. And the other thing I want to say is you need to leave yourself a little bit of time to go shopping with your child after they've moved in, because you don't always really realize everything that you might need.
Right.
And so, there is time for that. It's not like every minute is taken up. There are specific times throughout the day that they're doing things. You are not there from morning until night. So you need to remember that. So there's a lot of like downtime or free time that you'll have. And so after you assess, or your child assesses their living situation, then, then you can take them shopping.
Right. Okay, some good advice. And in fact, we also have some tips on how to make the most of the parent orientation. So join us in our next reading for today.
Here are some tips on how to make the most of parent orientation. Don't be shy. You have unprecedented access to campus personnel. Take advantage of this opportunity to meet anyone you think your child might come in contact with. Listen. A lot of information is shared at these orientations. Some may be particularly applicable to your son or daughter. Take notes on special opportunities, leadership seminars, internship fairs, extensive career services, a learning disabilities center, free peer tutoring, free transportation, mentoring, and research opportunities, etc. Join the Parent Association Committee. At the very least, sign up for their emails and stay informed. Give your child some space. Let them meet their roommates and call the shots. Don't linger. It's hard to say goodbye, but just do it.
Well, advanced listeners, we've been talking about parent orientation for college and how to go about going through the parent orientation. And with me today is also Linda, who's shared a lot about her experience with going through orientation for both her children. And there are some more tips that we will cover as you're going through the parent orientation. And one of those things is what, Brandon?
The first one is don't be shy, okay? So you have many opportunities to meet staff members and also professors maybe. So it says you have unprecedented access to campus personnel. If that word unprecedented means, it's never happened before or it's never existed in the past. And so you have all of this before you, take advantage of it.
Right. Ask the questions that you may have on your mind or you've been thinking for a little while, or even, think about what questions you want to ask before you go there so that you do take that opportunity when you are there. But not only not being shy and actually speaking up, what is something else that we can do during this time?
It says listen, because there's a lot of information shared here, and you have to think about, is it going to apply to your child?
Right.
And so, to me, it's more important for us to listen than to hunt somebody down, kind of, and talk to them specifically about your child.
Right. Okay. So there's a lot going on. Perhaps there's certain things you need to filter as well. You realize, that's not applicable, can leave that behind and take on what will apply to your son or daughter.
I also want to remind parents, this is the time that you are going to be saying goodbye. So during this orientation period, if you are used to making a lot of decisions for your family, especially for your children, but this is the time that your children are saying goodbye to you. So you need to also listen to them and see what they want in this situation. Don't decide for them what they should do or what clubs they should belong to. You're going to be leaving and they're going to be staying, and so this is their life.
Right. Also teaching them to become independent.
Right.
Right.
Well, letting them become independent.
Right. Okay, good. Now, there are lots of different opportunities that arise in campus life. So there is also the opportunity as a parent to take note of the special opportunities that may come up. This goes in line with the listening. What is applicable for your son or daughter? Perhaps you learn about leadership seminars, internship fairs. Well, a lot of different things. Perhaps your child has a learning disability. You want to know what can help and equip them or what resources are available. There's even free peer tutoring. What is peer tutoring, Brandon?
Peer tutoring, that means you have someone else in your class, for example. Maybe they're very good with math or some subject that you're taking and you need help in that. And so they're your peer and they are helping you with that subject.
Okay. Well, what about this next one, Linda? Join the Parent Association Committee. What is that?
Well, actually, all schools have what's called a PTA, Parent Teachers Association, and universities have parent association committees. So, you can be a part of decision-making for some parts of the university or parts of the college that your child is going to. Or you can be on their mailing list and you can stay informed as to policy changes or things that are happening.
Okay, so staying informed. Now, this is a little bit like what Linda was talking about, making sure your child can make independent choices. Give them some space. Let them meet their roommates and call the shots. What does that mean, Brandon? Call the shots.
Yeah, if you are calling the shots, you are making the decisions, okay? And so let your kids make some decisions about their own life, right? They're moving away, and so give them the opportunity to do that.
Right. And before we say don't linger.
Don't hang around.
Any last words, Linda?
Yes, it is hard to say goodbye, but don't make your child feel guilty for growing up.
Good advice. Well, parents, we hope you learned a lot throughout this and about parent orientation or just letting your child go into college life. And so we would love to hear your feedback as well. Make sure you check out our Facebook page and our QR code at the top of page 38. We thank you for joining us during this college life article. And this is Amanda,
Brandon,
and Linda
saying goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.